As if they don't have too much on their plates. The Kings of Combat Sports Podcast, John and Wade. They talk about the things they did that day. They'll analyze the work of Vince and Triple H. Review a SmackDown. 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 Review a SmackDown.
Hello and welcome to Review a SmackDown. I'm John Pollock alongside Wai Ting. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading.
Don't thank them. They should be thanking us.
If this is the year 2019, I know you're not listening to this because our archives don't exist.
Oh yes, should we address that?
You can address it, sure.
Well, yeah, no, we've been getting a lot of complaints about the Review-A archives being down. Apologies for all that. I don't know, some shit happened to the back end, and then
there was a problem.
This happens like once every 2 or 3 years, you know.
It feels every 2 or 3 months.
Well, anyway, it's just about finding the time to dig through all that and to re-upload, essentially, is what we have to do, right?
Yeah, re-upload every single show. So I just did these a few months ago.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I'm not volunteering for this one.
Yeah, I mean...
Because it's going to happen again, and I'm beyond frustrated.
Shit, at this point, I know some people have, saved these shows out there somewhere. Just, I don't care. Just whatever.
I appreciate people who have contacted me volunteering, but there's not much you can do. So if you're living in England, I really appreciate it, but there's not much I can do.
Yeah. Anyway, I wish I could give you a better answer.
Oh, okay.
But
that's that.
We'll
enjoy them while you can.
Yeah. If enough people complain, I think we'll definitely have to make it a priority. But just
if a human could fall into our lap, that'd be great. But we don't have that, nor do we have time. So.
A human? What do you mean?
Someone that we can delegate.
Yeah. You know what? We'll do it.
Should this have been an off-air chat?
Probably.
I'm in a salty mood today, so.
Oh, really?
Buckle up.
I can't tell.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about wrestling then.
Yeah. Do you want to chat about anything else? It's a quiet night on Tuesday.
Oh my God. Well.
Did you hear?
Yeah, I did.
They're going to pull Robert Lee from calling a game in Charlottesville because of his name.
Oh my God, really?
There's an ESPN announcer named Robert Lee who ESPN is now stating we are not pulling him. They said we approached him first and eventually we mutually agreed that it'd be best if he doesn't do the game because he would be subjected to memes and jokes, which amazingly, after they did this move, guess who has been subjected to all of this? This guy, which it's going to be, instead of being a 24-hour story afterwards, it's now going to be, this is going to be associated with this poor announcer for the rest of his life. I'm sorry. Go ahead and do the game. It is ridiculous. If your biggest fear was that there's going to be a caption of Charlottesville and his name is keyed, I'm sorry. That would not be my biggest concern here. This is ridiculous.
Right.
They made it a way bigger. They took a story that was on a scale of 1 to 10 a 2, and they made it a 9. Great job, ESPN PR. But Jon Jones also failed a drug test.
Yeah.
Crazy, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's nuts.
It is nuts.
Both those things happen.
Yes, they did.
Yep.
Right. SmackDown on Tuesday night, Brooklyn, New York, Barclays Center. AJ Styles came out to start the show. There's a big chant for AJ. He says that the U.S. title open challenge is back, and it starts now. Kevin Owens answers the challenge, and Styles says, hey, I beat you at SummerSlam. We are done. Owens says history repeated itself as a McMahon screwed a Canadian out of a title yet again, and Shane screwed him. So Shane comes out, and he says he called it right down the middle. Styles won fair and square. Owens then brings up that Shane has survived helicopter crashes, has jumped off the Hell in a Cell, but you were too injured to count 3 when I had AJ beaten. He said that Shane assaulted him and then brought up footage of Shane counting 3 with Styles' foot on the bottom rope, and Shane identifies it as such, stating, hey, his foot was on the bottom rope, when Owens argues that a number of weeks ago, his shoulder was clearly off the mat, but that 3 count stood. I thought advantage Owens here in this debate.
Owens had great logic in his arguments here. He would be sympathetic but he's so whiny in his delivery that you almost don't care if he actually has a case.
So Shane said he noticed the foot on the rope immediately and called it off, whereas the referee a few weeks ago did not. So his decision stands. Styles calls Owens a whiny-ass bitch and agrees to face Owens yet again tonight. So Shane makes the match and goes so far as to allow Owens this time around to pick the referee, but with the caveat, this will be Owens' final shot at the United States title. And that's what opened up the show.
I really liked the segment. I thought they had the tough task of making me care about what is now, like, what, the 5th or 6th match between these two on TV?
At least.
But I thought they succeeded. I thought Owens, as a heel, he doesn't just... They could have easily had him just come in, complain, but they instead, though, they gave him great explanations for why he thinks he deserves a match, and pointing out all the flaws and, I guess a traditional pro wrestling referee taking a quick bump and then falling for like what seems to be an eternity when this is Shane McMahon. And I thought Shane making the match with the stipulation of Owens not getting another shot with AJ, I thought provided balance to the stipulation of Owens getting another shot. So I thought it was a really good segment overall.
And watching this show, like, this feels like the #1 title on the show.
Yeah,
it's the top program, and just the way it's positioned on this show and the majority of shows, this feels like this is your main event program.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's by choice. Doing it this way, I feel like they think that they can, provide Jinder with a big enough thing to do whatever they want with Jinder, while at the same time elevating your U.S. title. And now you almost have 2 titles. Or you can look at it the other way and say you have 2 watered-down secondary titles. But depends, glass empty, half empty, or half full.
You could argue that Jinder would have a lot less of the focus and an ability to grow more naturally, and it fits the program a lot better if he was the United States champion.
Yeah, but he would also have a lot less focus.
I think that would be a better thing. I think there would be less expectation for him, but also he's a pushed character.
Would he get all that press if he was less focused?
I think he still would have gotten quite a bit of it. I don't think the WWE title means all that much to people that are focused on this character that has...
I don't know if the India market would pick things up as much if he was just the secondary belt holder.
Daniel Bryan was on his phone, which he was for most of the show backstage, and noted that they had a few surprises tonight. And then the Singh Brothers walk in, and they give a full introduction for Jinder Mahal to enter a room backstage. And Mahal calls Bryan a progressive thinker. Bryan says he doesn't feel Jinder can win without the Singh Brothers, and said heroes don't take shortcuts, and says that Nakamura wants retribution, and tonight Nakamura will take on the Singh Brothers.
Yeah. I'm starting to feel like Harv Sierra. I don't know their actual Singh brother names. Harv is who?
Harv is Samir and okay. Gurv is Sunil.
Samir, I think, is actually proving to be the stand-up performer of the entire group. I think he might even be a better promo than Jinder Mahal.
The one that rolls the R's?
I don't...
With the Maharaja?
That's not how I identify him. He's basically... He's the one who took the bump off the cage.
Okay.
Gurv seems a little less confident at the moment. He's not really given as much lines, and he almost just kind of takes a backseat to the other brother. But I feel like he almost needs to break out of his shell a little. But I think Harv is like, he's great. He's very good.
So that match was made for later. Owens is backstage, and he walks into Sami Zayn and says they've been through a lot, but he needs someone he can trust tonight. And he has concluded that Sami Zayn is that person he can trust above everyone else. And Zayn says he recently watched his DVD and it brought up a lot of memories.
The DVD, you mean that you appear in 75% of?
Yeah, it was crazy, Sammy. You actually did a sit-down, lengthy interview for this DVD. Yeah. I mean, you must have been shocked that you were actually in this. Owens then says, I know you're not busy tonight because you haven't been doing much of anything since coming to SmackDown. And he asks Zayn to think about refereeing tonight. Which, by the end of this whole night, it really made you wonder why was Sami Zayn, like, in this world of SmackDown, why was Sami Zayn even at this arena? Why did he even come to Brooklyn this weekend? This was it. It was him to turn down a referee position was his big moment of SummerSlam weekend.
Do we know that he wasn't in a dark match?
He wasn't in a dark match.
Oh. Well, I'm sure there are a lot of people backstage that just...
Oh, you mean at SmackDown, a dark match?
Yeah.
I know the dark match after everything was Orton and Mahal, so I don't know if he did something beforehand, which, okay, at best, he did a SmackDown dark match, which I don't think he did, so it was... What a demoralizing weekend.
Maybe he showed up just for the catering.
Maybe he's looking at El Generico merch money he can be making outside the company, because I don't know how many more months you would be...
Well, that's an interesting question. Do you think somebody like him is considering his options outside of the WWE?
If I was him, I would certainly be looking at them.
Well, he would certainly do great outside of it in the market right now. At the same time, though, I feel like he probably has personal goals within the WWE that he is still very far from. And
like having matches.
Yes, like having a match. But I don't think he's necessarily that far off, you know? He just all of a sudden just kind of needs that timing and really just needs that one big push in order to really get up there.
Well, but that's the problem. I mean, no one's doubting, oh, can this guy... connect? Can this guy rise to the occasion? No, it's just that they're not hot on him at all.
But I would say he's hardly a lost cause. You know, he hasn't been overexposed to the level of a Dolph Ziggler, for instance. If you're Dolph Ziggler, at that point, I would consider, you know, making the shift. But, yeah.
Aiden English was under a spotlight in the ring, did his usual singing introduction, and then was cut off by Bobby Roode, who came out, did his full entrance. The place went crazy. And Bobby Roode made the... jump to the SmackDown roster. Yeah,
there were leaks of him, photos of him walking into the arena, and also like even his Titantron being played in the arena prior to this actually airing. And I have to wonder, you know, none of that was probably unintentional. Like,
I think it's actually, I don't know if it's by design, but I think it is smart to do that stuff so that you still get the quote-unquote surprise pop, but you also entice others to tune in that may not have been. They had a reason to see if this was actually going to happen or
It's a great way to build anticipation, and I thought they managed to do that. This crowd was already chanting Roode when AJ was announcing the U.S. Open Challenge, so this crowd was fully expecting it.
And contrary to the maybe spoiler label that people would put upon that, I think The Undertaker proved over the weekend that those things don't always play out, but they're nice little hints of what could come without being advertised. So I don't even think a guy being spotted is necessarily a dead giveaway.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that later. But anyway, it was really satisfying to finally hear the song and see this entrance on the main roster. But I think it was kind of odd to just have him wrestle here and not speak at all, or at least not really have that anticipation built before it, other than that photo leaking.
It kind of felt like the Mike Kanellis Maria debut, where it was just done for the initial buzz, but I mean, we'll see next week. But it didn't seem like there was a concrete idea of where this guy's going. You didn't even get the sense necessarily that he was a heel.
Oh, he wrestled as a babyface.
He wrestled as such, kind of gave this ambiguous promo afterwards. The match was not much. It was Roode just milking the crowd with glorious chants and really played that up well. JBL got in a beer money reference. English hit his finish, which didn't lead to a finish, the director's cut for a 2 count. English then missed coming off the top, and Roode hit a spinebuster and the glorious DDT for the win. And then Renee Young came in to interview Roode. Roode congratulated Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon for breaking the bank to sign the biggest free agent today, and says in a New York minute, SmackDown Live went from being great to absolutely glorious. I think they'd be crazy not to position this guy as a key heel on SmackDown, which desperately needs it, which, based on the running storyline of Kevin Owens seeking out referees, kind of gave credence to that theory. But yeah, this was a fine debut. This was all about the crowd. There was nothing significant about it other than it was a surprise and the audience reacted as such.
I kind of found it unusual that typically especially for bigger debuts, they would either tease you and then they would just deliver an appearance, but to actually just kind of give away a match on his first unannounced appearance, I feel like they could have built up to it a little bit more. But I do love the explanation that he was a high-priced free agent that SmackDown happened to sign. So I think it all depends on the follow-up. This was, you know, he was going to be a babyface to this crowd no matter what.
What a storyline that would have been, though. He was going into his NXT title defense where his contract was expiring. I mean, this kind of makes Triple H look like an idiot. Let his ex-champion just slip away.
I guess so. Maybe the NXT title has a thing where it says once you lose the belt, you're a free agent. You can sign with whoever.
That's an awesome contract. Yeah. I guess that means Jon Jones could be headed towards a Brock Lesnar match. Once he gets stripped.
It is oddly convenient how so many NXT champions happen to debut after they lose the title.
It's crazy. They need a pick-me-up. They need a new change of scenery. I think it's also amazing when you look at the SmackDown roster at the amount of Canadians on this show.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I was watching like with Roode and Renee. It struck me that here we have a show built around Kevin Owens, Jinder Mahal, the Singh Brothers. There's Tyler Breeze in there. I'm probably missing others, but there's
Natalia's the champion.
Natalia's the champion. Yeah. There you go.
Morrow used to call the show.
Used to have Morrow there, but man, there's a lot of Canadians on this SmackDown
Jericho.
branch. Yeah, Jericho's part of SmackDown as well.
Yeah, I mean, who are the Canadians on Raw?
I can't even think of one.
Yeah, okay.
Off the top of my head.
SmackDown should just be the Canadian territory.
Should be red and white instead of blue and white.
Should be a Stampede, maybe.
I don't know about
WWE Stampede.
Stampede down. Nope. We'll find out Thursday. I have a feeling that Roode will do what many of the NXT departees have had to do, and that's work concurrently to finish up programs.
Oh, you think so?
I think he'll still do the Roderick Strong match.
Okay, right.
We'll find out Thursday if he's there, but
lose to Strong.
Like they just shot an angle with them after the title switch and Roderick confronting him backstage that I feel they're going to finish that one up.
So how far do you think this Roode call-up was planned in advance if he had those loose ends in NXT?
It could have been as recent as this weekend. They might have just... I don't know when they decided on the title switch. So it was probably right around the time they decided the title was switching that they'd move Roode on up. And with Adam Cole on deck, there wasn't that need to just keep Roode around other than you could have Roderick beat him and give Roderick some momentum.
Who would you pair Roode with for his first program? And also I want to ask you about his WrestleMania program.
His WrestleMania program. Yeah. Okay, we're getting well ahead of ourselves here.
I'm sure they have these things already in mind by the time they bring him up.
I really like the idea of him and AJ having a program, though that feels as though Baron might be getting that spot initially. Once you get away from that, honestly, I could see Roode and Sami Zayn as his first stepping stone.
That's cool. I'll watch that. That's a great match for the hardcores. But I could also see him being involved in like the whatever ladder match they do.
A ladder match?
Yeah.
Oh, for WrestleMania.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm saying initially with Sami Zayn, like his first program. Oh, for WrestleMania? God, I don't know. It's so far away that it's like, who knows where this guy's going to settle in. I mean, look where Mike Kanellis is.
Yeah.
He debuted less than 2 months ago, and he's disappeared.
It's true. But I would almost guarantee that Roode gets a spot at Mania simply for that entrance.
Yes, I would definitely think so. So after that, we had Brian once again on his phone, and he is met by Chad Gable, who walks in, and he says he's sorry that his partner left to Raw a long time ago. Gable says, yeah, that's all I ever hear about is Jason Jordan, and I'm kind of worried about my own career. So then Brian said, you know, everyone thought I was an idiot for letting Jason Jordan just walk out like he was Bobby Roode or something. But I actually made a deal with Kurt because after I gave Jason Jordan to him, I was given the ability to sign his 42-year-old friend. And I did. So I lost a wrestler, and I then had to spend money to replace him. Meet Shelton Benjamin, who might have been twice Chad Gable's size. This was like the poster of twins. So Gable is introduced to Shelton, and Gable loses his mind. Yeah. He is the biggest Shelton fan in the world. And Brian suggests they team together, and Shelton had a look of, what the fuck? And Gable was so ecstatic, and they left, and they're going to team together next week. Shelton and Gable.
I guess one black guy goes, you get another black guy in return for this tag team. You know, I mean, let's hold out to see how this turns out. I think in ring, it could be very good.
Remember, the odd couple dynamic is how Gable and Jordan started.
Yeah, sure, but but they're not even so much of an odd couple. They're two wrestlers with a
they have this in common, but so did Gable and Jordan kind of as well.
Right,
but they were just not on like it was the reluctant partner that Jordan was, and Shelton feels as though he is now. Right after the segment aired, someone posted this clip of Kurt Hawkins doing like a sit-down interview from years ago, and he talked about there was this big meeting, and Vince was at the podium, and Michael Tarver, guy who was in Nexus, raised his hand and asked something, and Vince responds, "That's a great question, Shelton," and the whole place just erupted.
That's awful. Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing. Anyway, how do you see this turning out? Do you is this Chad Gable's role?
It's something for Chad Gable. I mean, he's doing nothing. I mean, there's
are they called American Alpha? Are they what is it? World's greatest?
America all fucked up.
Anyway,
world's next greatest tag team.
Yeah, I could see. Could you hear what Shelton was saying here? Dude was like, I would hate to see him have a meeting with Kurt because like Shelton was like really mumbling here. I couldn't tell what he was saying at all at the end.
Why are you criticizing that? What if there's an issue?
Well, unlike Kurt Angle, I don't think this was an impediment he can't control. I feel like Shelton just needed to speak up and enunciate, and this is me saying that here. But I also see like Gable kind of taking the lead as far as speaking goes. I see this really just being a vehicle for Chad Gable to promote him.
Yeah, I see Shelton ending up in a role that you've seen like a gold dust kind of character. I don't see him being a real pushed commodity, and I think he's more or less a benefit to Chad Gable and wherever they're going with him. We also found out that Bryan has acquired somebody else in this brand split.
Who's that?
Jimmy Jacobs.
Oh, he was
there on Raw, and now he was on SmackDown Tuesday night. So he's a free agent as well.
I did not notice that.
And Owens just shoot him away as he was talking to Sami Zayn.
How does that work? Do the agents work both shows?
Yes.
Yeah.
But on screen now, we know that John Cena, Renee Young, and Jimmy Jacobs are free agents.
They never explicitly said, other than the commentators, who were exclusive, I suppose. Did they?
Yeah, but Renee had been appearing on SmackDown, but now she's on both.
Okay, what a get.
So this is where Zayn turns down Owens, gives back the ref shirt, and says that you will not be getting any help from me tonight. And Sammy's going home, I guess, after a long, hard weekend of work and sitting and
eating,
doing whatever. Yeah. Hope you had a good time in Brooklyn. The Usos took on the Hype Brothers, non-title match. The Usos stomped Mojo in the corner. There's a running reverse hip attack. Jimmy dove, missed, and hit the corner post, and then the hot tag was made to Zack Ryder. I say hot tag because if you were just watching this and not paying attention to the crowd, you would assume Zack Ryder was Conor McGregor going crazy here. But the audience, and I heard from someone who was there live in attendance, the beach balls were out in full force on Tuesday night. A real problem. People were ejected. Apparently now the company is now banning beach balls from being brought into the arena. But this was a big issue during this match. And would be later as well during the women's match. But the beach balls did not quiet down after Monday.
Oh, the beach ball got the hot tag from this match.
I mean, John Cena largely endorsed it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Cena's whole thing is like anytime he's like peddled with like any type of insult, his whole thing is to just take it
and own it.
And he thought to do the same thing here with this. I just don't necessarily think it was the best call. And you can look back and say maybe Cesaro didn't have the best intentions, and he probably had the best intentions, so he probably didn't work out.
I'm not going to blame a guy though for just going with his reaction. I thought it was great in the moment that he did it. I don't have any issue with him doing it, and I also. Road Dogg spoke about this, the fact that the audience is trying to get themselves over. Well, you know what? Your company put them over. Your company did a whole 24 documentary dedicated to the Night After Mania crowd. So you can't just glorify one particular crowd behavior and then poo-poo another one. You have put this spotlight on your audience, so I'm not going to cry for you that you're not getting the desired reactions.
I don't know if I blame one or the other. You know what I mean? Like, it's the crowds have become such a big thing onto themselves that they would be silly not to mention them in things like a documentary about the post-WrestleMania shows.
But you're going to have audiences watching that are going to copycat it. That's right. That's what you're doing.
So, I mean, it's a really kind of tricky issue to kind of talk about. I don't really blame one side.
You know who I'd be more annoyed with? The crowds at 205 Live. The crowds during the 3-hour Raws where I'm dying. I'm not going to get upset that a crowd is lively and having fun. I mean, it makes it more interesting for me to watch. So I don't care at all. I die during some of these third hours of Raw where the crowd is on their hands because they're just drained. I'm not, and then we get the polar opposite here. That's not okay either. I mean, are we getting to the point where we'll need a handbook of how you react when you attend a WWE show? You can't control every measure that the audience is going to have. Beach balls are banned. They're going to find something else.
Yeah, sure. But how do you fix it if you want to fix it? I'm
not arguing it's broken. You've got a crowd that not every crowd is going to be like this, but when it happens, roll with the punches.
It kind of affects the viewing of it for, I would say, at least a section of the audience who I think gets sick of it and wants to actually watch the matches.
When two performers go out and have a match that no one reacts to, whose fault is it?
Yeah, but I mean, they were doing that for matches that are actually good, you know? Matches where the people actually try. And that's, I think, where my issue stands. Sometimes there are segments that are boring and they deserve it. But then, like, for instance, the women had a match here, and I thought they were actually doing pretty well. But then people start doing the wave, and they don't really give them a chance. At that point, my enjoyment of the show is impacted by, you know, this audience. And again, I'm not complaining. Like, if I was there, I think I would love it too. It's just, I think I feel a little salty when audiences don't give the wrestlers a chance and instead are just there to kind of, you know, have their own fun, do their own show. I
just look at it that the WWE has done such a big job of I mean, there was one year they gave the audience the Slammy for these kinds of reactions for turning on matches.
Yeah, I mean, are you saying they shouldn't do that and they should ignore reactions from audiences completely?
You're giving mixed messages. On one hand, you're giving them an award. On the other, you're banning stuff and saying, no, this is not how you react to a match.
I'm just saying it's a complicated issue, you know? You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
I think they've made it way bigger than it really is.
So your philosophy is for them to just ignore it completely?
If the end result of SmackDown was that a 5-minute tag match and a 5-minute women's match were affected, sorry, I'm not that upset over it. There's other things you can get angry about.
You sound upset.
I'm not upset about it. I'm arguing in the exact opposite.
Yeah, I just don't think there's a real easy solution for this is all I'm saying.
I don't think it's going to be a trend either. I don't think this is going to be an issue next week. Maybe it will be.
Yeah, ultimately, I feel like the audiences will police themselves, you know. If enough people online complain about this, maybe it'll change, you know.
Anyway, the match ended. Mojo hit a flying forearm on the floor, and then Jimmy yanked Zach off the turnbuckle and super kicked him to beat him, and then the Usos cut a promo. Before we make, like, chips and dip. And then they put the tag division on lock, and they welcome everyone to the Usos penitentiary.
Yeah, good stuff. I think the Usos have the promos now. They've got the in-ring, obviously. I think they just now need some opponents and some storylines to help them get to that next level. I assume that the New Day feud is done by now.
Yeah, I don't know what will be next for the Usos. If they, I mean, are the Fashion Police something they'll go back to? Because we kind of did do that feud once.
You can do that. I feel the Fashion Police are kind of hot enough. They are like very much more of a backstage comedy type of team, but I think they have enough crowd interest behind them so that you can build into something with But, yeah. Or maybe make a new tag team. Look at Rollins and Ambrose. They were just put together, and I think they're fantastic.
Shinsuke Nakamura took on the Singh Brothers. The Singhs introduced Mahal. There were no tags during this match. Nakamura just put...
Yeah, it's a handicap match.
Yeah, they stacked both in the corner, used the good vibrations on them, then stuck both on top of one another on the top turnbuckle, hit a running knee. Mahal distracts as the Singhs attack Nakamura from behind. Sunil gets knocked to the floor, and then Nakamura hits a rolling triangle out of the corner to Samir and got the submission in 2:48, allowing Mahal to attack Nakamura after the match. But Nakamura fought back and laid out Mahal with the Kinshasa.
I think, you know, this was okay, but I think what was missing was seeing Nakamura state his desire to get that belt back. I'm assuming they're building up to another rematch, but the way this ended, I could just as well assume that this feud had wrapped up and Nakamura and Jinder were both moving on. But I think Nakamura should have come out here pissed off that he was cheated out of his first and only shot at, first shot at the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. Instead, he just kind of stood around and made faces. I really have no idea what his reaction was to losing that match at SummerSlam. His first loss on the main roster.
And the next SmackDown pay-per-view, if I'm not mistaken, is Hell in a Cell. So that's probably your stipulation.
It's an interesting match. I mean, like in his first few months in the WWE main roster, we're seeing Nakamura put into all these kind of match types that he would never have a chance to do in New Japan. He's been in a Money in the Bank. He's been in a handicap match. I was going to say he was in a Punjabi prison. He wasn't, but could you imagine that?
Yeah.
And then he's going to be in Hell in a Cell. So these are all kind of like match types that are kind of foreign for us to see Shinsuke Nakamura perform in. I wonder how that'll work. Like, do you look forward to a Shinsuke Nakamura Hell in a Cell match?
Not really. No.
Yeah, like he's not really that style. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather see a brawler do that type of match, and yeah, maybe he'll make it interesting.
Owens is still looking for a referee, and he runs into the Fashion Police. They are off duty this week, but they can still be his referee.
Have you seen the Domino's ad with these two?
Yes, I did. Where they
pretty well done.
They find Alexa, and Owens says he's not interested in either of them being his referee. Tells them to leave, but then has second thoughts. But a hand appears on his shoulder. He turns around, and it's Baron Corbin, who agrees to be the referee, but he then gets the first crack at Kevin Owens' title.
Yeah.
Maybe Sami Zayn and the Fashion Police are going to put out a whole video documentary of their weekend in Brooklyn. We didn't even get I guess they announced last week there wouldn't be a Fashion Files this week, but this was it. This was their whole role as well, and they did not have a dark
Sean,
match.
at the very least, these guys got some TV time. I'm sure there are plenty of people backstage who just show up and don't do anything at all. Like, is Summer Rae still a part of the roster?
She's part of the roster.
Does she show up?
I don't think
every
she's
week?
flown in, though.
But sometimes, like, if you watch Total Divas, there was a whole stretch where, like, Summer Rae was on Total Divas, just sitting around backstage watching the shows, making comments, and she was not a part of any of those things. I don't doubt that they just have people on hand, on standby, from time to time.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying it's not.
They're getting paid, you know.
Yep, that's true.
So, anyway,
they made a killing. Natalya came out for a promo and said SummerSlam was the day the Glow was unplugged, and she's restored honor and credibility to this title. No more glowing in the dark title, which I felt was a missed opportunity to do some vignettes of Natalya like constructing the title back to its original form.
Oh yeah,
destroying
ripping out.
Like what's the process of getting rid of all the crap that Naomi put on the title? Instead, she just came out with the new title.
I imagine she probably doesn't have the technical expertise to
take it to a place. Have someone do it.
Is that necessarily that compelling to watch? Hey, here's my belt. Fix it.
You could have done something. There was so much outrage over this title.
It's also possible that they had a new title made. But you're right. Like that would have been kind of cool. Have her destroy the old belt.
Yeah.
But the way she
destroy it, you're right. Yeah. Like just take a sledgehammer to the old title and you could see the lights just dim and go out.
Yeah,
in the dark.
Yeah. I almost got the sense though here like this was almost a babyface promo saying how You know, her whole point here was that she was restoring honor and dignity to the belt, and then Carmella comes out, who's another heel. So like Natalya almost felt like she was essentially kind of playing Brett here with the Brett jacket and everything.
Yep. Carmella said that Natalya finally won something, unlike the people in Brooklyn. Says it is Natalya's time, but she's on her watch and is on borrowed time as she waves around the briefcase. She let Natalya have her moment at SummerSlam, and Ellsworth says that Carmella could just refuse to tag in tonight, let Natalya get beaten down, and then cash in tonight, which Carmella indicated was the plan.
Yeah.
And that was the story of this match against Becky and Naomi.
I really love Ellsworth and Carmella together. I think they're just fantastic, and I hope they don't break them up for a very long time, because I think Ellsworth is just he's just such an amusing and almost perfect male manager for a female heel wrestler, you know? I think Carmella, in ring, besides Lana, she might be one of the least impressive on the roster. But on the mic, I feel like she's one of the best in the division, certainly. And I would, at this point, because Charlotte hasn't done so much on SmackDown since she's here, since she arrived, maybe she's the best right now.
This is when the fans started doing the wave. Becky yanked Natalya off the turnbuckle, and from there, the tag was made to Naomi. She went for a sunset flip. Natalya kicked out, and Carmella constantly did not want to be tagged in and just let Natalya take all of the damage. She went for the sharpshooter. Naomi kicked her away. Then Natalya comes up from behind Carmella, slaps her in the back to tag her in, and then goes after Carmella, gets kicked away. Becky comes from behind, Beck exploder, and Naomi hits the split-legged moonsault and pins Carmella.
So it seems like Natty versus Carmella is the next program that they seem to be building towards.
Sometimes with the Money in the Bank, they'll have one feud with the briefcase winner kind of overarching the champion. But yeah,
but that was the program that they seem to tease, at least here, unless they're promoting somebody else. I think
there's also no mention of a Naomi rematch.
No,
maybe she had a specific contract clause that got overlooked.
Maybe she's a free agent now.
Oh boy,
yeah,
maybe.
I think Naomi, though, you know, without the belt now, she still feels over enough that she almost doesn't feel like she needs the belt. So I would say it was probably a pretty successful run that helped elevate her to this current status that where she's at. Man, I think that coat is awesome. The LED coat.
Yep.
I think it's amazing. How does that thing even work?
Maybe it's something they could sell. How much would a coat like that go for?
Probably at least
hundreds,
a grand.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dasha,
it's like imagine, like, how do you even control that? There's just like a software, maybe, like a Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth thing that
it's something control. I wouldn't want to go if it was raining outside.
Why didn't Jericho get something like this? Like, Jericho's coat jacket looks like shit compared to Naomi's.
Jericho's is really expensive.
Yeah, it looks like garbage. He got ripped off.
Oh man, wow.
Yeah, it does. It's like, okay, so Jericho's thing is almost like an 8-bit, you know, NES, and Naomi's is like, what do the kids play these days? Xbox 2?
Sure.
Whatever it is.
360, is that the new one?
360, yes. I don't know. I'm sold.
Dasha was backstage and welcomed Dolph Ziggler back. And he says he's excited to be reintroduced during a backstage interview. He says, way to roll out the red carpet. Says he watched a lot of Raw and SmackDown while he was gone and learned what it takes to be a star. Sing, play guitar, rap, get lots of lights, a spotlight, lasers, a big robe, a beautiful woman. He then clarifies, a beautiful woman that glows in the dark.
Oh.
And he ended it by teasing that he will do this next week.
Fucking throwing shade at a bunch of people.
Man, he's set up programs for months.
Yeah, I can't wait to see Dolph
feud with every ridiculous gimmick out there.
Dolph and Naomi for the jacket.
I like that the glowing in the dark was on the same level as having the audacity to wear a robe to the ring.
So the robe is about what? Who? Bobby Roode?
I guess so. Yeah.
Or anybody who
that was a fresh wound.
Or Charlotte, I guess.
Yeah. Ooh, a robe. I want a feud over a robe. Maybe this is Roode's first program.
I mean, if Roode's a babyface, maybe somebody should.
I don't know what this guy
somebody
is.
should take issue with what Dolph is saying here. You know, but Dolph is
The response will be, it's Dolph.
Yeah, I'm above that. Dolph's character appears to be, again now, this is, I guess, another reboot. What, 3 reboots now in the year?
I lost count.
This reboot seems to be him, again, complaining about his status in the company, and maybe he'll go back to more of a back-to-basics type of thing. What that means is maybe he'll show up without any music or any entrance. Maybe that's what he means.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. I think him and Owens are playing the same whiny-ass bitch role that AJ gave Owens. I mean, it was kind of the same thing here.
Kind of, yeah. It's tough, though. Like, he came back, Dolph, here with the same look, same bit of everything. We'll see, like, what he does next week, but it's going to take a lot, I think, to repackage him.
He did this live video on Facebook last week or YouTube. It was for Cricket Wireless.
Yeah.
And it was all about his summer. And so they gave him these like cue cards, and each one has something stupid on it, like, favorite beach game, or it was just.
Yeah, okay.
So he goes through like 3 or 4 of them. He's like, all right, we're going to do 2 or 3 more. And he looks off. All of them? Okay. And he went through like 35 of these.
Oh, no.
And he had to have some witty response for every stupid question. I'm like, my God, this sounds like the PR appearance from hell.
Well, at least he got some time in front of the camera.
He did get this precious TV time.
Yeah.
That you. How much does
do you think
a guy increase by being on TV?
Do you think Dolph was flown in the previous weeks?
I don't think he was there.
Oh,
no,
he wasn't there.
No, I think he had gotten some time off.
I feel like at this point, Dolph should just wrestle as Colonel Sanders. I think he'd be way more over.
Oh, he lost that out to Shawn Michaels. He's not even Colonel Sanders anymore.
No, that's too bad.
I mean, he should really be one to complain about gimmicks when he's out there having matches with The Miz as Colonel Sanders. So he's back. Lana's on the phone. Tamina walks in, and Lana says her ravishing journey to the title will begin next week, and she gets Tamina to close her eyes. And Lana gave a very deep monologue here, supposedly describing Tamina, but in reality, outlining her own shortcomings and what she's dealing with by being laughed at by people, gossiped about, and said that anger will boil through. And then had Tamina open her eyes, which immediately brought everyone to Nia Jax's entrance, where they have the close-up with her eyes.
Right.
And Lana sees the rage. Tamina is ready and says the ravishing reign of terror will begin, and no one can stop her until she's champion. And Tamina will be the most feared woman on SmackDown Live.
Mm-hmm. I think Lana is a really bad wrestler, but I think she's a really good manager. So I think she's a great fit for this. We know she'll deliver in this role. I think it's Tamina that really, remains to be seen if she'll step up here in this role. I think she's supposed to now play this newly enraged woman who's like kind of found a new mean streak, and therefore I expect her to be a lot more ferocious in ring and probably booked as such. But also I want to see her style be a lot more ferocious and aggressive. She needs to be like a Samoa Joe or Brock Lesnar for the female division, and we'll see if she can deliver. I also think her look needs to be updated. I think that leather jacket just kind of looks really boring on her, and overall she just looks a little plain compared to, you got a woman with a Xbox coat here, So she has a lot to compete with.
But if she does that, she's going to anger Dolph Ziggler.
Well,
so she's got to weigh her options.
Dolph seems upset at everybody.
Corbin then explains his deal with Owens to AJ Styles. And AJ says, well, if I win, there's going to be an open challenge every week. So don't be stupid here, Baron. AJ and Baron was the main event. AJ and Owens was the main event with Baron as the referee. Styles drops him with a forearm. They went through a commercial break, and throughout the early portion, Corbin is calling it down the middle. Styles landed a Ushigoroshi, then applied the calf crusher, and Styles is cranking on it, rolls Owens over to the middle of the ring, but Corbin breaks the hold, saying that Owens touched the bottom rope. Does touching allow the hold to instantly be broken?
That was a point of contention.
Yeah.
And that's what Shane McMahon was calling bullshit on.
Owens then shoves Styles into Corbin, and Corbin starts yelling at Styles and shoves AJ, which Owens rolls him up into a schoolboy for a near fall. Shane then runs down and tells Corbin, "You're doing a terrible job." And Corbin said, "Yeah, but what about my refereeing?" Corbin says, "I'm watching everything they do," right as Owens low blows Styles behind his back. Corbin goes to count, and Shane pulls Corbin out to the floor, and they start yelling. Corbin takes off the referee's shirt, and he quits, tosses it at Shane, and he leaves. Owens is furious as Shane takes over refereeing. Styles drops him on the top rope, hits the phenomenal forearm, and Shane counts 3.
Man, does Corbin look like a bitch after this past week. Guy loses the briefcase, loses to Cena, and then, like, essentially
he quit as a referee.
Cowers to Shane McMahon.
Yep.
And leaves the ring. So they're really making no effort to rehab him at all. He's just he's Enzo.
From what I was told, that it was not so much a punishment as much as Vince just decided last week he's not going with this guy. Now, could any of that other stuff have led to that reversal of where they were going? Maybe. Who knows? But I mean, coming out of this, do you feel that AJ is positioned with Baron?
No, not at all.
Because at most, that feels like a TV program. That is not a feud I want to see go over another month until their next pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So, I can't say this was a wonderful week for Baron, that 7-day stretch.
Unfortunate. But I enjoyed the match, actually. I thought it had some pretty compelling storytelling. I think you really get a sense of Kevin Owens' anger towards Shane McMahon.
And justified anger, too.
Totally justified. I think Owens is the type of villain that is so full of depth that you can understand why he's evil. You know what I mean?
think that makes for better stories when you have heels that have justifiable gripes that you can understand.
It's the difference between a Netflix Marvel villain and a movie Marvel villain where you have enough time to tell the backstory of why this guy is evil. And Kevin Owens, here Owens asked for this match, tried to take advantage of a Baron's bad call via low blow, and then justice was served as a result. And then Owens, though, from his perspective, feels like he was cheated by this guy who had no right to interfere in his match. And I totally get it. So I thought Owens, throughout the course of this show, really carried it. I thought he was the MVP from trying to set up the main event to all the backstage stuff, trying to look for a referee, to his acting here. I thought he was just tremendous.
And now he's set up for a program with the Danny Rand of the WWE, Shane McMahon.
I guess so. I guess he does have a bit of an iron fist, doesn't he? See that striking?
Yeah.
The martial arts are probably on par.
I'll say, though, if they're going to do this match, I don't want to see it in a Hell in a Cell. I think that.
Oh no, you can't. You can't do Shane in a Hell in a Cell ever again. You can't top that. You can't top.
But I feel they will.
I think it's stupid.
I hope they don't.
I hope they don't either.
It limits them. Hell in a Cell typically limits guys. It doesn't enhance a match.
The expectation for Shane is to jump off the cell again.
You can't.
If he doesn't do it, people will be disappointed. And I don't think he should ever. Same reason why Mick Foley never could have done another Hell in a Cell. Unless he fell through the cage, which he did again. And I don't want to see Shane ever do that again. So I hope it's not Hell in a Cell either.
And let's remember, before the jump off the cage, how awful that was as well.
Yes.
Not to say Owens and Shane would be as bad as Taker Shane was, but it was the whole problem of the structure of that match.
Yeah.
Everyone knew something big was happening, and they didn't care about any of the awful grappling before that. So that was SmackDown. A bunch of appearances. That
it almost felt like a reset, this show.
Somewhat.
I mean, it felt like almost a post-WrestleMania.
This felt more newsworthy than Raw was.
Yeah, you had a number of debuts and a number of new directions and storylines wrapping up. So I actually really enjoyed the SmackDown. I didn't think any segments dragged at all. Every match or character seemed like they had purpose. So good show, in my opinion.
No review of 205 Live, but the key part of the show was after Neville defeated Tozawa, we saw Enzo make his 205 Live debut.
Yes.
And it appears to be Neville's next opponent, which there is a sick, curious side of me that really wants to see this match.
Yeah, I think it'll be good for 205 Live, to have that star power and to have somebody compelling enough that people could get behind. It'll be great for Neville to have a babyface that is actually, well known.
Well known, but also probably the worst wrestler on that 205 Live roster.
Definitely. Though at this point, I think star power is more important than having the ability to have a good match.
It's
for 205 Live.
I'm not going to criticize when so much, and we've discussed, has not worked on 205 Live, that they're trying something drastically different.
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed to trying this. I think ultimately Enzo should be a heel manager, especially I think he could be better utilized on Raw as such, but they're going to try this out, and I'm all for experimentation on 205 Live.
I guess my question is, at what point does this Enzo quote-unquote punishment, demotion, end? Does he end up winning the Cruiserweight title, or does he even lose it to Neville? And what happens after that?
I could see him winning the title.
I could see him winning the title too. I almost feel like he should in order to prolong.
Like he become on night one, he's the top babyface on 205 Live.
Yeah, I think he should win the title as well.
All right, so that's going to wrap up this. So
we'll do feedback on the audio version.
So you can go download that at liveaudiowrestling.com. You've had a whole hour to think about it, Wai. Any final thoughts on Jon Jones? This was This was a big topic of discussion in the SmackDown locker room on Tuesday night.
Oh, was it?
The Jon Jones failure, yes.
Who was talking about it?
It was everyone.
And why were they talking about it?
Because it was huge news.
Oh, okay.
I think everyone was talking about it.
Well, I mean, I guess this was maybe the biggest dusty finish in the history of MMA, wasn't it?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It was insane. I thought I thought that we had put an end to this saga. It wrapped up rather nicely with Jon Jones kind of almost redeeming himself.
This was the ultimate redemption at 214.
And then a month later,
the babyface turn at the end with the promo.
I know. And then Daniel Cormier's heartbroken. And then a month later, psych, USADA just always coming in and making things more interesting. I feel just ashamed, for him. I feel ashamed for Jon Jones, and I feel terrible for Daniel Cormier. In a selfish way, I'm glad we actually got the fight, and I'm glad the fight wasn't pulled last second, because that would have been, I think, even more heartbreaking.
Yep.
But if you're Daniel Cormier, he said in his statement he felt like he lost, and can you, if you're Daniel Cormier, still carry that belt with any type of pride, knowing that you had lost to Jon Jones 2 times and you are, not necessarily the best fighter?
It's not going to be his decision, though. I mean, it's going to end up.
But Randy Couture refused to take the belt after Josh Barnett.
Yeah, but this one, it's. I mean, I don't think Daniel Cormier A is going to refuse that, and B, I don't think he should have to. I mean, this is going to. I mean, there's no disputing this was in his system. Whether Jon Jones has a tremendous defense and can prove it was a tainted supplement, it doesn't change the fact that this was in his system for that fight. So you have to turn it to a no contest, and therefore he didn't beat Daniel Cormier.
Yep.
So I think the title will end up back with Daniel Cormier. And
what does this mean for Brock Lesnar?
For Brock Lesnar, it means, Jones. Again, it's impossible without knowing what the term is going to be for the suspension. We don't know his side and what kind of defense he is going to have for this, but it's his second offense, so he is facing anywhere. He could face up to 4 years. So I think conservatively that fight is out the window.
Yeah.
And for everyone that immediately was thinking, "Oh man, Jones can now do WrestleMania." That's not how drug tests work. It doesn't mean you are Bobby Roode and you are out of your contract because you drop a title through a USADA drug test failure.
And really, what does that make WWE look like to just... I don't know. I guess
he's under contract. It doesn't matter if you're suspended for 10 years. He's under contract, and it's not like he's free.
Yeah.
Unless the UFC gave that consent.
Well, what happened with Mike Tyson for WrestleMania 14?
Well, that was very different because he was suspended by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and they didn't view wrestling as something that he was not able to do the match. He could be
so could Jon Jones guest referee?
Again, the UFC, it's very different because the UFC as a promotional entity has Jon Jones under exclusive contract.
This is still silly, though. All of a sudden, we're talking about Jon Jones being in the WWE now simply because he got suspended.
Yeah, that's what everyone was going to. That was
that's wild.
but UFC contracts specifically state you can't do pro wrestling.
Right.
So,
but however, who's to say though Brock can't just go to the UFC for another match?
oh, he could still go.
Yeah,
I
so-
don't think it impacts Brock still having that leverage play for his WWE deal being up because Jon Jones was the pivotal fight to make, but there are like Brock can still go. That doesn't change anything. I don't think it changes his desire at all to go if it's Jon Jones or if it's another heavyweight.
Right.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up. Go download the show at liveaudiowrestling.com. And let me check one thing here because I may have a quick update. Oh, look at that. Joining us Sunday night on The Law will be Jim Ross to chat about the Mae Young Classic, which is coming out on Monday. And he was also just calling a match at TakeOver last weekend. So lots to chat about with Jim Ross this Sunday on The Law. Tune in at 11 Eastern. Fallout from Mayweather-McGregor, all of the news that went down this week, and more. And you can also catch the MMA Report on Thursday.
And on Friday, Review Away, John and I won't be here, but Braden Harrington and Bartender Dave will be guest hosting, and they're reviewing Pure Country, Pure Heart.
Yes, thank you very much to those two because this week is insanity, and there's no way I could have found time for that. So thank you very much to Braden and Dave. They will be back on Friday. Goodbye.
SmackDown.